Yeah, there was two things going on with this young guy. I mean, he's a young guy, but he's still a man. Like, he's 25 years old, so he's still on paper a man. He looks like a man, even if he's got many boyish tendencies. And even for myself, like, I'm 37, but early 30s, I looked very much like a man, but very much acted like a boy in many, many areas of my life. And I wasn't really aware of that. I wasn't that self-aware to go, when my missus turns me down for sex and I throw a little tantrum for a strop, that's actually very boyish tendencies. That's not, a man doesn't handle it like that. Right. And I was like, oh, fuck you, love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think, but I don't think age is the factor, right? It's the mental adolescence. I mean, you've got 45, 50-year-olds that would respond the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
They've never grown out of that understanding. That's powerful. Well, welcome to the Advisors Collective podcast. I'm sitting here with Pete Taylor from the UK. Excited to talk to somebody from London. First time on the show, Pete. Somebody from international waters, let's say. Pete's, I don't know your actual role with Heroic Man. You're just one of the founders, right? And one of the main guys there. So excited to have you on the Advisors Collective and talking to what is largely a big group of men to talk about a bunch of subjects that really affect men every day. So excited to have you on.
Thank you, man. Pleasure to be here, mate. I always enjoy talking with people across the pond.
Yeah.
We're not unique. Us men, we believe we're unique. We delude ourselves into thinking we're unique and our problems are our own and no one else has got the same freaking problems, but it's not true.
That's right.
Having worked with hundreds of guys, we all have the same problems, myself included.
Yeah, I meet people all the time, and the challenges we have are really similar if you're white collar, blue collar. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Most of the time, human relationships are all pretty similar to a degree. I mean, you're married and you got kids and you got, and at whatever financial level you're at, you still fall into all of these same challenges and buckets. We're all raised by a parent or two, and there's the stuff that comes from that. And so, yeah, this is going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation just now with a client of mine. We went out for lunch and he's a business guy. He runs his own business. He's super keen. He's actually young, in mid-20s. I've attracted a number of guys in their mid-20s who really want hard growth in their life as young men.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking me questions around his business. So he's just employed a sales guy. And he's like, Pete, I really want to push the growth in the business here. Can we talk about some strategy? And I'm like, dude, most of your problems here aren't going to come from you getting the right strategy. It's your personal problems. It's the things that you are avoiding in your personal life, which will then go into your business life. We can have the best strategy in the world, but if your mindset isn't right, you're not going to implement it. You're not going to do anything about it, or you'll find a way to sabotage that. So you've got to get your mind right first, and you've got to get your worth right, your self-worth as a business guy. If your self-worth isn't right, you might make the millions, but you'll find a way to lose it.
For sure. It's funny because I'm 39, I'll be 40 in February, and I've been a financial advisor. By my birthday, it'll be 20 years. So I started young, started 20, right before my 21st birthday. And I was uber talented really quickly. The selling of a lot of insurance products, investments, that sort of stuff was not difficult to do, but I would inevitably have spikes, do nothing, let it crash, remotivate, kind of recenter, go back. It was just a lot of ebbs and flows for a long time. And then it just took a lot of self-awareness, self-introspection, a lot of reading, a lot of just hard change in order to put me finally in a place where I ceased doing those kind of self-sabotaging things. Because it didn't matter that I had the right business plan. I kept effing it up myself, so I 100% understand that one. That was part of maturing, like coming out of adolescence, becoming a man rather than a boy, which was a lot of that mental that I had to go through. Right. So I'm assuming that's a bit of what you kind of mean with this young guy.
Yeah, there was two things going on with this young guy. I mean, he's a young guy, but he's still a man.
Yeah.
Like, he's 25 years old, so he's still on paper a man. He looks like a man, even if you've got many boyish tendencies. And like, and even for myself, like I'm 37, but early 30s, I was looked very much like a man, but very much acted like a boy in many, many areas of my life. And I wasn't really aware of that. I wasn't that self-aware to go, fucking hell. When my missus turns me down for sex and I throw a little tantrum for a strop, that's actually very boyish tendencies. That's not, you know, a man doesn't handle it like that.
Right.
Right. And I was just like, oh, well, fuck you, love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think that I don't think age is the factor, right? It's the mental adolescence. I mean, you've got 45, 50-year-olds that would respond the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
They've never grown out of that understanding. That's powerful.
Yeah. So just with this young man earlier, there was two things that we discussed. One was the internal program that's running in his head, the programming that, and just like you said earlier, like you had these like ebbs and flows of up and down, up and down, up and down. It's like we as humans follow patterns. Like we have patterns that are installed in us and through events and experiences in our lives,
Yeah.
through childhood, through teenage years, through 20s, 30s, the like. And then we will subconsciously find ways to reinforce those patterns and those programs. It's like code. So it's like you use certain programs with the work that you do as a financial advisor, and those programs just repeat, repeat, repeat. It's the same as what we have going on in our brains.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, with your conscious mind, rewrite your subconscious mind. And that is, I can't remember the synapses of the brain, but it's basically like you're in a little John boat with two paddles pushing against a river from all of your childhood, all your thinking, and you can overcome that. But you have habits and tendencies and just all kind of stuff flowing, and you have to really push. I just don't think you change major habits in a week.
No,
You
well,
know, it
that's and what you just said there is part of the answer. There is that you have to really push, and pushing is force. So you have to put force against your pre-existing habits, behaviors, and beliefs. And force is dark. It's essentially it's a negative energy. And it's fucking hard. Like to forcefully change is grit, it's resilience. That is difficult and it's hard and it's probably the harder way to do it. There's an amazing book called Power versus Force, where the guy talks about essentially like the different levels of consciousness and how some are more negative than, and the more that we can actually, rather than forcefully change the way that we think, is actually just go through like reprogramming the way our brain works, because like our subconscious makes up 95% of what's going on, right?
right.
It's all below the surface. So now we know there's like we've got 5% of it is in our conscious. We're like our conscious mind is consistently telling us this is what we want to do. So say like, I don't know, for a financial, say they want to get to a certain amount of money they want to earn, like, and you consciously keep telling yourself, I want to earn that money, I want to earn that money, I want to earn that money. That's like, it's forceful. You're trying to force that into your
Yeah.
subconscious, and that's fucking hard.
That's where the ebbs and flows would come from.
Mm.
It was almost like it wasn't sustainable because it was so fucking hard. Because you could only hold this like amount of pressure on yourself for so long, and then you would end up like almost needing a rest day, if you will, and you would just things would fall apart.
It's force, and then inevitably, like it's like you've got this constant fucking tension, and then inevitably, it's you're gonna want to just go, I need to chill, man. I need to let go, and then that's where that zigzag comes from. It's like up and then down and up and then we're down, up and down. You never break that zigzag unless you dismantle the programs that's going on in your subconscious. It's fucking you up, which are they're ultimately some form of insecurity and fear. For somewhere along the line, and which the subconscious thinks is completely logical, which is why it's running, because it's the logical thing to keep us safe. But 99% of the time, and unless it's like big trauma, capital T trauma, which doesn't happen to many of us, 99% of the time, it's illogical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the in high school, somebody made a joke about your sneakers because you didn't have the best kind or something, so now you have this, like, "We're poor and I have this money," but it wasn't actual danger to you or something, it's just you now have this feeling like, "I don't wanna be poor the rest of my life."
Yeah.
People make fun of me. It's trauma, but it's trauma light. You weren't physically abused by a parent or something. Right.
I'll give you a lot. This is an example of my own. So when I was 12 years old, my parents divorced. So for me at that time, that was a big event and a big experience. At 12 years old, there was separation in my family.
Yeah.
12 years later, when I was 24 years old, my best friend, my brother, who's everything to me, died in a car accident. So again, I had this like huge traumatic event, and it was separation in my life. And what happened at 12 was the separation, fear of. I began to form this like fear of loss.
Mhm.
12 years later, big separation in my life, big loss again, just drove in that fear of loss. 12 years after that, so when I'm 36, literally 12 years, I divorced. So that there is like this, and I didn't know I'm doing this until I got real like clear on like why this is fucking going on and piecing things together. But there is this pattern of a fear of loss, which is a program that was installed into me to essentially protect myself at a young age. But here's the fucked up thing is that to my subconscious, I've been very successful at achieving that fear of loss
Yeah.
to be successful in.
So how does somebody go about rewriting those kind of insecurities not in the way of force, you know? Because we both know that that way is not sustainable.
Yeah, the fastest way to do this is actually to find someone like a mentor that has already been through it and can get into your brain and your mind and dig into what's really going on for you. And not just bring you a little bit of an awareness, but really like make you understand why that's happened, how illogical that is, and then how to reprogram it. And then like, here's the plan to move through this. So this doesn't have to affect your life, right? Because
Yeah.
that for me, that just give you an example, that like fear of loss, that affected everything. Like I had a big business for 6 years, successful business. After 6 years, so half of 12, I fucked it off. I was like, "Right, I'm out, done, quit that one, leave." I was in my marriage for 6 years. I was in that relationship for 6 years. Out, done, and there's been plenty of occasions. So it affects your finances, it affects your businesses, it affects your relationships. So important that you get to grips with this. So number one is my recommendation is find someone, find a mentor that can talk you through it and can understand your programming. The second thing is you need emotional release. I've actually just got back from South Africa last week, where we took 8 men out into the South African bush to take them on a rite of passage for men. And some of these guys, one of them is actually a financial advisor who's in his mid 50s. And we're taking him through because there's areas of his life where he's still very, very much acting like a boy, particularly actually in his business. He's focusing on things like fucking admin work rather than focusing on sales.
Yeah.
That boyish behavior by doing that. But in the African bush, when a lion like chases a fucking gazelle to eat it, and that gazelle legs it, and if the gazelle escapes, he or she will take a moment and shake. You know, animals do that. To essentially, what they're doing is releasing all that emotional trauma, right? Because
Well,
that's a traumatic event for them. And then
for sure.
and when we go through trauma, we build emotional energy inside of us, right? So these animals will then shake it and then release all that energy. The gazelle just get on with his life. Us humans don't do that.
Yeah, we hold it.
We hold it in our chest, we hold it in our balls. But for a lot of guys, we literally hold it in our balls and our pelvic areas. Many, many, many men are very, very tight down there.
Yeah,
Extremely
guys,
tight.
all tight hips, all
Yeah.
that sort of yeah, they're holding their tension.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. And like I find that dude, I find that like when we start doing this sort of work, guys get better in bed. Like they would get better at having sex because they're just not so fucking tight down there. And to be a better lover, it's like you don't want to be rigid and tight. You just yeah, you don't. You want to be loose and in flow, right? And that is a way to be a better lover. When you are holding so much emotional shit in your body, you're automatically tight.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually my step number two here. You've got to have emotional release. So when, like, just say you get a great mentor, helps you to bring huge awareness to the patterns that are fucking you up. It's then about emotionally releasing them, getting that out of your body. And there's plenty of modalities to do that. There is therapeutic work. There is breath work. Breath work's a phenomenal way. Certain types of like conscious connected breath work, somatic breath work is fucking phenomenal in the right circumstance to be able to release trapped emotional energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you talking about, people have maybe never heard this before, either like Wim Hof type stuff or box breathing, or are we talking about something different,
Deeper than that.
deeper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Wim Hof, yeah, I love box breathing and Wim Hof. And things like box breathing is a fucking phenomenal tool that every man should use. I use that all the freaking time. Whenever I need to just chill my nervous system a little bit.
Mhm.
And for like box breathing, what that is, it's essentially it's a 4-second breath in, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold that for 4 seconds, and you repeat. And that's a tool that the Navy SEALs use.
I first started box breathing, and I did it first time when I was starting ice baths, because it was a way for me to get centered essentially when I was in there so that I could go for longer duration. And then I started to realize, well, why don't you do that like in the middle of the day when you're feeling like ripping someone in half or having a
Right.
rough day? And then you realize, oh, okay, this works all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's other beyond that stuff that people can look up. What that you think's even more powerful?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, you have to be
the
quite careful
emotional
with it.
release side.
You gotta be something like conscious kinetic, or like it's another word for it is holotropic, is a and it's essentially what you do, and you go for long periods. So you might do this for something like 30 to 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. And there's a number of ways to do it, but it's a deep breath in and then straight back out through your mouth, but there's no pause. So it's like a circular breath. So you're filling your belly in, and then you're breathing it directly back out again, and then back in, back out, right? Just through your mouth. And in the right environment, in the right state, you can begin to access, because you start to kind of shut off your conscious, you start to get into a bit of your subconscious, and you can begin to access emotional traps in your body. And then you can have releases, and those releases may look like you may look like burping, it might be crying. Crying's a big one. It's getting trapped emotion out of your body. So that is one way to access that.
Yeah, I think a lot of men feel like when they hear stuff like that at first onset, maybe it's first time I've ever heard of such a thing, right? They're listening right now. Do they think that's like hocus pocus? They don't really think that you hold tension and you've got these kind of things that can be released in that way? Or do most guys, they're pretty accepting of like, man, if I really try this, this might help me.
In my experience, I would say that more guys are warming towards this and more open towards it. Certainly the guys that I attract into my world, that they're like, "Do you know what? I'm open to this." I'm hosting an event this weekend in London. I have 40 guys turning up. A lot of them don't know what we're gonna be doing. The last event that I had 40 guys turn up a couple of months ago, I got police sergeants, I got armed force guys, I got some real heavy hitters in there. Just like typical man's man.
Yeah.
That's that sort of thing. However, one of the best things I've ever done. I'm so fucking glad I went in, and I'm so glad that like you kept us going to go through this, because they had like they left changed men, better
Yeah.
men.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting when these kind of rites of passage of some of it, or just pushing guys into situations they would never normally do. Like you said, that they knew they wouldn't have came to participate. When you connect that way, you get men's groups that do stuff like this, and I just think it's funny. Guys see breakthrough in their own lives, and they're like, "Man, I didn't realize I was so like holding on to this or that, or I didn't know I was so bothered by this situation in the past." But then it wells up when they start to go through these kind of exercises, and they realize, like, "Damn, that really affected me," and I thought I let that go, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So
Dude, there are so many nuances to this, and and when I do events in person, I'm like, guys, I need to talk to you about what's going to go on and what you need to do afterwards and not need to do afterwards. Like, don't go away preaching this to be the next best thing and then trying to get all your mates to do it. Don't go away and like go to your missus and go, oh babe, I had the most emotional release. I was crying for hours and hours. She ain't gonna find that attractive, mate. Don't do that.
right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And or feel like this is a crutch, this is the answer, and then you're doing it week in, week out, because it's not. You can go the other way and become way too in your feminine energy and sit way too much in that. And that's the wrong way to go. It's got to be the balance of both.
Yeah, that's good. It's everything in moderation, right? You help, but there's certain things that as men we need to lean more into and that strengthen us. So, what's the thing in Africa? Tell me about that. I just want to know more about why did a bunch of guys, predominantly, I'm assuming from Europe, go down to South Africa? What's that kind of thing all about?
We've had a focus on taking boys into being men. And I noticed this in myself, and my business partner noticed it in a number of the guys that although they might be 30, 40, 50, they're in many areas still very much acting like 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 20-year-olds. And whether that looks like committing to a relationship, it's like, I got this relationship with an amazing woman. She's beautiful, emotionally, intelligently, spiritually. She's got all these things. Yet I still want to go out and fuck other women. And I'm actually, I'm nearly 40 and I've got these things going on. And it's like, there is a problem there. Like, that is a problem because that's boyish tendencies. That's the tendency of an 18-year-old or 20-year-old to go out and do all that. Great. If you're that age, have a bit of fun, get that out the system. But when you're 40 years old, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's like essentially a matured masculine, like someone in his matured masculinity would not be doing that because a matured masculine is there to pair bond with an individual to essentially provide and protect for him and his significant other, build a family, not go out and sleep with as many women as possible.
I mean, with the numbers, the numbers of, gosh, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I saw this in a study recently. A a gigantic amount of pornography that's watched by men is men who are like grown ass men. They're not boys anymore, right? Well, they are. They have the mentality, but I think they are still. I think in the states, I'm assuming UK is the same. We're so westernly similar as we started off like that. That's got to be a chronic issue, right?
It's huge.
It's got to be gigantic.
I think the stats are like 95% of men watch porn. It's a very, very high,
Okay.
and it's a huge problem. But I know this from my own life. Like, I haven't watched porn this year. We're nearly at the end of the year. I've watched porn twice, right? But there was a time where porn was just of course, so why would I not? Like, this part of my life. And no one teaches you this. No one tells you that it's bad. No one tells you that it's damaging your psyche. No one tells you that it's damaging your intimate relationship. So who's there to tell you that? And when you're like, boy, and I figured out my penis worked, and I was like, this feels good. And then it's like, oh, now I know that it's naughty. I need to keep it in secret. So then you become secretive. I remember finding out about porn. When I was a boy, it wasn't internet, it was magazines. And then the internet came around. And then, but I'm a young boy. I'm like 14, 15 years old, and I'm finding out about these things. And I'm keeping it secret, but doing it frequently as a young boy does because you're going through puberty. You're getting testosterone. You don't know how to control that. No one's teaching you how to control that or what to do with it. So starting at like 14, 15, I mean, going into my like 30s, I've been doing it 15 years, right? That is the same with most guys. They've been doing it 15, 20 years. It's not just a habit, it's fucking part of your identity.
Yeah.
And when no one's telling you that it's not a good thing, it's not serving you in any shape or form, Why would you change?
Yeah, and I think culture also tells you, like right now, there's like a podcast for financial advisors. So you go like, why would you talk about that kind of thing? Because it fucks up your other if into your business, into your it's all that stuff is a common thread that's woven throughout, and they one affects the other. And like that's why you got to talk about it because this is why your business isn't where you want it to be.
Yeah, this is like there's so many facets to this, but let's just talk about self-restraint. Self-restraint for a man is it should be one of his deepest values and traits to be able to cultivate is his own self-restraint. So when it's the middle of the day, right? And then you should be doing your lead generation or your business development, yet you have an urge to go and have a wank or to go and watch porn. Like in that moment, you can cultivate self-restraint. But if you're not thinking about the detriment to that, you go, oh, fuck it, I'll go and watch porn for a little minute. Then it's literally on your mind. It's taking you away from the focus of growing your business. Let's just say that it is the middle of the day. You're fortunate enough to be able to work from home or work wherever you want. And so you can go and do that at 2 p.m. How would you feel afterwards? Because I'm telling you, I don't feel energized after I ejaculated. Like, you don't. It's a natural thing for guys. We do not
You're
feel energized.
time to fall asleep now, right? Zach?
Yeah,
I'm
shall I have
like
a nap?
cranked up to make sales calls now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And that so actually it can actually become this sabotaging trait that gets in the way of you doing the thing you know you should do, which is like make the sales calls.
What are some of those other major things? Like porn's clearly one of them. What are some of the other big traits that we're seeing 40-year-old grown in body men still acting like boys?
Massive. This is huge in relationships, man. Just like avoidance in relationships. Like maybe their partner wants them to be more emotionally connected and they're just avoidant of it. And but don't know how to vocalize, verbalize, or really like attune to any emotions that they're feeling. And so the won't will compress it or repress it, then it comes out in other ways. But that's a big way because like a guy that's in his matured masculinity is able to regulate his emotions, but he's also able to verbalize them in the right way
Mm.
and be emotionally connected with his partner. Like I get that a lot from women. And I say two things to women. Number one, that may just be the way he is. He may just like women are very, very emotionally attuned,
Yeah.
like higher than most men. So it's important not to compare the way that you are attuned to your emotions to your fella, to your husband. Comparison is the thief of joy. Never ever compare.
Yeah.
Ever. So that's number one is like, hey, maybe he's just not there. And that's okay. But the second thing is he might just not, he may not know how to verbalize it, talk about it. He may need some growth there.
Yeah.
And support is actually like, it's a form of parenting. And we do not want parenting from our spouses.
From the spouse. That's right.
It become too much of that. It actually becomes very unattractive for your partner because she's like, I keep fucking supporting him, and now I feel like I'm parenting him. Now I feel like I'm his mother. Now I'm not attracted to him. Now I'm leaving.
Well, yeah, because if she starts to feel like your mother and then she ceases to feel like your lover.
Yeah, but dude, this is a big fucking thing for a lot of men, particularly men that were raised by their mothers, is that they can seek to find their mother in their partner.
Mm.
It's huge. I felt fallen into this trap myself. So I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that in myself massively, and I had to do a lot of work around that. But it's like, particularly if your mother is an amazing woman and has done a lot of work to raise you, you can subconsciously or consciously put your mother on a pedestal. And then because they're so beautiful and nurturing and loving when you're a young boy, then look to find the same thing in your woman. And then actually become a little bit support you and look after you, but then it's unattractive.
Got it.
Right. Whereas what I find to be more growth orientated is acknowledgement, rather than support. So rather than like support, it's actually like being like a guy being acknowledged by. I know if my woman acknowledges me for something I'm done, she's like, Pete, fucking what you did last week, I loved it. Like I just loved the way you handled that situation. Like I love you and I appreciate you. I'm like, fucking right. Like I'm gonna go and fix everything in the house right now. I'm gonna let me go and actually I'm gonna go and build another business.
Most men, I don't know any guys who, if you said, if your significant other came up to you and said, "Hey, you've been working really hard and the deck looks awesome and out back, and I'm just super proud of you right now." Like, I don't know any guy that wouldn't be like, "All right, give me something else to go do,"
Yeah.
because there's something about that acknowledgement that's super powerful for men in connection to their spouse.
Well, it just helps us to feel like we're useful.
Yeah.
A- And we just fucking love guys, love being useful. We love to create things and build things.
Yeah.
Because we want to be useful to the world. Essentially, it's to help to provide and to protect. And if we've been acknowledged for being fucking useful, and like, well, yeah, because and she's like, I wouldn't be able to do that. You've just done that. I'm like, fucking right. I feel good.
It
I'll
makes
go
me
and do it
special.
again.
Yeah, and then that's a weird vicious circle that can go in the wrong direction, right? Because if you're not getting that validation ever, she needs to know that that's how it works. And you need to know that's how it works, because if she never says it, you never feel the validation and you don't create the positive upward mobility of working harder, getting the projects finished. But if you start a project at the house and she never says anything as to how it's going, then you might not finish the project. You shouldn't be seeking that validation exclusively from your spouse, of course, but it's also clearly key in motivating.
Y- Yeah. The key here is open communication.
Mhm.
The key here is communicating that. And like, I know that for guys to do better in their business, if they do better in their relationship, they do better in their business. I know this. Most business problems are personal problems in disguise,
Yeah.
right? One of my clients, he has 2,500 people that work for him. He runs a big business over in London. And he said, we're having a discussion on the weekend, and he said, Pete, man, everything that's been going on in my relationship, he said, it's been going on now for 18 months. I've had so much anxiety every single day for the last 18 months. I've hardly been able to focus on my business. I don't even know how that I've managed to push through. Nothing to fucking do with business strategy, just literally because of what's going on in his relationship.
Yeah.
Your personal problems affect how you perform at work.
Yeah, and a lot of the tendencies of the communication tendencies that you're having with your spouse, you're carrying those over. So those same, because most of business is communication, just like it is in relationship. So if you're really lacking in these different areas of how to communicate with your spouse, you're probably doing that with your business partner or clients or whomever, right? So then that same challenge is affecting you directly at work, like indirectly through your relationship, and then how you feel at work. And then also you're making those same mistakes when you're on the clock during the day.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, avoidance in conversations of conflict, whether, if doing that at home, it's likely that you're doing that some shape or form at work with clients, contractors, consultants, team colleagues, and so on. And particularly as a guy, no, it's such a powerful word for a guy to get real stronger in his own boundaries,
Mm,
to be able to say no to things that don't serve him and his family's goals is extremely powerful.
yeah. Yeah. In business, I see that a lot, when people bring new ideas, kind of thing, like, here's an idea. Just no, we're not doing that. That,
Yeah.
that that doesn't hold with the vision of the company, or that doesn't hold with, my vision for this. Same thing, goes for stuff in your relationship. I think it's really similar. Like, it's a weekend. We've been doing something every weekend with people. This weekend we're not. We're going for a walk in the park, and you know, we're just it's just gonna be some time for you and I. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. And it's just that leadership, that guiding in the relationship that I think as a man, sometimes you have to do because sometimes that's just required. Um,
Yeah, going back onto the rites of passage, going into it like extended adolescence, and what we mean by that is that say for myself, for example, I'm a 37-year-old man, so chronologically, I have the age of a 37-year-old, but there may be areas in a relationship where I might turn up as a 20-year-old, right? So that's what we mean by like extended adolescence. We're still in those, and like we all do it to some shape or form in certain facets of our lives.
Absolutely.
But like what I have found to be very, very effective for the growth of us as men when we're thinking about rites of passage is actually beginning to understand our own internal archetypes. So we all have hundreds of different archetypes, but there's like 4 core main archetypes that Carl Jung found a number of these. You may well have heard of king, warrior, magician, lover.
Hmm.
And this is really important for a man to get hold of, is whether those archetypes are present, they're alive, or whether they're in the shadow. So one of those or part of those is being suppressed. And so sequence is really important as well as a king, a warrior, a magician, and a lover. It's really the sequence is important because to start at the top is your kingship, is to be a king of your life. And what that essentially means is, do you have direction or drive? And it's having these things in place because a king has that. A king has a vision. Like a king is essentially looking over his kingdom. And his kingdom looks like his career, looks like his family, right? It looks like his community. He is looking over that and has a vision for the future for that. If you are a man without a vision, it's hard. It's hard to really go places. It can be very isolating, and you can feel very lost and confused. She wants a man who's a king, who's got a vision and can lead the family.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be one of the most quoted proverbs from the Bible, where it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but where there is, it's like a tree of life." There's just so much that comes from it when there is vision. That was, of course, written by King Solomon, who
Yeah,
knew, how vital that was.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's so say like you've got a vision. You know where you want to take your family. You know where you want to take your career. Yet you're not doing fuck all about it. So you're not actually taking any action. But then that would say to me that your warrior then is in the shadow. So the warrior is the second piece of the puzzle. And like the warrior is the guy who's literally out in the battlefield. He's out fighting. He's a worker. He's doing the work, right? He's taking orders from the king. He's not making the orders, but
Right.
he's out going, go, 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 drive, 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 do, 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 do. Right. And this is the second piece of the puzzle. So you've got a vision, and then you're actually doing the things to count towards a vision in your family and in your business, in your life, in your community. Right. The
Good.
third piece of the puzzle is the magician.
Yep.
The magician's super, super important. The magician is the transformer. The magician has the ability to transform other people's lives with the way that he talks and the way that he thinks, right? So he can be persuasive. And he's also got the ability to transform his own life. So he gives counsel to the king, right? So big fucking vision, and the magician comes in and goes, hang on a minute, is this the best way to go and do this?
Yeah.
Let me give you some counsel around that. Essentially, this is your wisdom.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really important role. So you can have a vision, and you can be out going, doing the work towards a vision, but the vision might be shit.
Yeah.
Just it's like, why does that guy keep doing those really like god awful things?
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's just a negative place to go. It's just a negative vision. He's always going after bad things in life.
Yeah.
Well, maybe his magician is maybe in the shadow. He's not consulting with himself. He's not
Yeah. It's not
counseling.
good. The wisdom is lacking.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember studying this, gosh, it was a decade ago. So it's funny you're bringing back up a really old, the retention from the mind we're connecting the dots and bringing out some old subconscious memory here. The so we talked king, warrior, magician. Who was the fourth one?
the lover.
The lover. That's
The lover is your ability to love, to show compassion, to show care, to show empathy, right? To show forgiveness. Dude, forgiveness is one of the most powerful actions that any man can take. And like not just forgiveness in other people, because forgiveness is in other people is never for the other person, it's always for yourself. Always. It's like it's like fucking we can be fucking fuming or have this internal angst and whatever against someone else, and they be just getting on with their lives and have no idea that's going on for you.
yeah.
Yeah, and like we're like tormenting ourselves for months or weeks or years over something, yet that other person is just doodling on with their life and has zero yada dirt.
Yeah, they're not hanging on to it. Right.
No.
That's a lesson I had to learn a long time ago. I think like most boys, when you're a teenager and the adolescence you brought up earlier, the testosterone's at like, you know, 1400 or something, you're just maximizing and you're just full of rage. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but I could get so mad that it was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
That led to quite a few little fist fight scuffles and things when I was younger until you learn how to mature out of not fighting your way out of every situation. And it you just made me think about how the forgiveness is tied to that because you just hold on to stuff. The rage comes from the fact that you're not just letting it go and just being like, yeah, he's having a bad day or whatever. Just, you know, it's okay. It's something he's got going on, and that's his to deal with, but I can let that go right now and enjoy the rest of my evening. You know,
Yes.
I've been in a lawsuit. I was in an 18-month lawsuit with my previous firm. I'm in a lawsuit right now with a business partner. He has his opinions, and I have mine, of course, but I forgive him because I'm like, I know we are in a big financial thing. This is costing an enormous amount of money, but I can't personally hold a grudge with him because that's not going to serve me. We have to legally go through this process, but I'm not going to be bitter towards him
Yeah.
because it's just poisoning myself and my own soul.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't help my business. It doesn't help the people that count on me to do well for them if I'm thinking about how much I hate somebody else. So I love
Yeah.
that. I think most people really struggle with that, or they just become so calloused. They become like cold. I see that with sales guys because they have to go through so much rejection in
Yeah.
order to be good at sales, right? That it's just rejection's always pouring on. And instead of just going, well, it's more of a forgiving spirit, it's instead just calloused and cold. And then they feel nothing.
Yeah, then they feel numb. I went through that in my first business because I was so focused on growing the business.
Yeah.
I numbed every emotion and I forgot what love was because I was just, no, business, business, business. I'm growing this business, business, business. And then I put all my significance in building a business. It's great to have significance in building something, but you need to coincide that in building significance alongside with love, with building meaningful relationships. So important, man.
Yeah.
If you do one or the other, you'll be off kilter massively. You have to be doing both at the same time. And that is not easy. It's hard. It feels like you're juggling 16,000 plates, even if it's just building one business and one relationship.
Right. We both know that. Like
Yeah.
it's called the 5 F's. And like most people have heard about that. I talk about it a lot. They can get out of balance for a little while, but not too long. Because if you have one leg that's shorter than the other for too long, your hips get thrown out of whack
Yeah.
and your back screwed up. You know what I mean? Like they have to get back to level. And that's like faith, family, your finances are firm, right? Essentially how you're making money, right? Fitness, I think, is vital long term. And I think you have to have friends. I think it's very important that outside of family, you also have human relationships that they're not kin, right? They're friends. And having love in those different ways really matters.
Yeah, and I'll caveat that last one with friends. Men need more men. Men need male friends, like a good fucking solid group of guys.
Yeah.
Like not just. I'm not beating guys going down the pub and getting drunk or going down the bar, and because that's fun, that's cool, and I think that is important to have. It's really fucking important to have, I think, like a couple of different groups of mates. The groups of guys you go out and you laugh your tits off and you talk about shit and farting and sex and whatever, and you just laugh and it's
Yeah.
banter and it's childish and it's just like that's so good, man. But then you've also got the other group, the other guys that are more conscious and that are more powerful and that like it's all about growth and how can we become better men. Like that's incredibly important. And they're also the guys that if you are going through shit in your life that you can talk to. And they're
Yeah.
not gonna be there to fix they're not gonna try and fix your problem. They're gonna be there to, like, hear it and then go, "Right, dude, should we oh, you're good. Let's, like, get this clear so I don't need to take this home to the missus." And that for me is a guy has to have that if he wants growth in his life and doesn't want to consistently get in dark places.
You think it's easiest to create those as secondary groups or different groups of men as you were stating? Because I feel like for most guys, they have their golf buddies, and before when they're in college, they're their drinking buddies. Now they're their golf and drinking buddies or whatever. You know, they go to the pub or they go golf together and they do shit like that. But as it relates to many times, those relationships are pretty shallow. Those same guys don't ever go deep. They're, they don't ever have those harder conversations. Like my one buddy, he was just gaining a lot of weight, and I said, "Hey man," I said, you shouldn't like. You need to really get in shape. You need to get back in the gym. I'm not saying you need to become like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, but like your boy is watching you and you've let yourself become quite the fat fuck. And you don't want your son to like look up to that and think that's okay. And we're tight enough that he was like, "Hmm, like, yeah, you're right." I'm like, it's just you don't want him to aspire to be like that. So if you want him to be fit and in sports and so on and so forth, you need to get yourself right. You know? And he's like, "Okay." But, like, I'm that friend. We have that relationship, but we're not also I mean, I here and there we cut up, but we're not like the drinking dudes together either. Those are kinda like those are different groups in my life.
Yeah.
Does it tend to be that way? Or I would think it's quite complicated to find that in the same group.
You have to have intention and a willingness to go out and find it or create it.
Mm,
It's not gonna just land on your lap.
yeah.
Then you have to become that man that belongs in those groups and that attracts those groups and that adds value to those groups. And to become that man, it means being better. It
Mm.
means working on your shit. It means working on yourself. It means looking at the things that you are avoiding in your life and going, I keep getting triggered at certain things, or I keep avoiding this. I keep avoiding my finances. Oh, well, let me get good at it. Or I keep avoiding conflict. And then you'll find that you'll begin to attract different people in your life.
You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are.
Yes, for sure.
So if you're first showing up, then you will attract a group of men around you that also wanna show up in that way.
Yeah, it's the same with I actually find this with the type of clients that I work with. I like with when I do like my one-to-one work with guys, none of them are like further ahead than me in terms of like the deconstructing and dismantling of internal programming or like just knowing how to be a better man in certain elements. They may earn 10 million in their business or 20 million in their business. I'm like, you're crushing it over there. But over here, like I'm at a certain level and I can help them get to a certain level. But I don't attract guys that are further ahead than me in that area. And
Yeah.
that's
Force
that's what it is.
yeah, it's good. Well, it's kinda how mentorship changes, right? Like, I had a really powerful mentor when I was in financial services through my 20s, and then I kinda outgrew I grew to I mean, I became everything he ever taught me and more.
And mate, he done his job.
Yeah, he had done his job, like, perfectly, and then I had to get a new mentor,
Yeah.
kinda And it wasn't because, like, you're now better than that person, like, that was their job. That was, like, his quest, essentially. A mentor, a parent doing life right, hopes and prays that their child is more successful than them in relationship, in business, in, all the different areas. And I've seen where people get like mentors and parents get bitter when kids start to do better than they, and you're like, isn't that what you wanted? You know? Uh,
Yeah, that's a problem. Like parents getting bitter about their children doing better, or parents living their life through their children. Right, so it's like, "Oh, well, I never reached the success that I wanted to, so I'm gonna make sure my son does." Both scenarios keep the child not fully pledged into being a man,
Mhm.
because he hasn't been offered up. There has been no, like, here he is into the world.
There's no fear of loss from you, and they don't ever experience the launching into the wild.
No,
Yeah.
no. So that can I mean, us parents, we're gonna screw our children up in some shape or form. But I think and I was having this conversation earlier with another one of my guys. I'm like, "Dude, do you know what? Our role as fucking fathers is to be the cycle breakers. We will break the fucking cycle. The cycles that our ancestors and our grandparents and our parents have carried on for years and years and years. I ain't fucking letting it carry on into the next generation. No, cycle breaker. Be the man that does that." I think that's part of your duty as a father is to go, right, there has been these paradigms that like my grandparents did, and then my parents did. And now I can see that I'm fucking doing the same fucking thing. And let's change this.
Yeah. Goes back to your no, the power of no. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that. We're not having that in this family, or I'm not having that in my life. We're stopping that.
Yeah. And I think that's important for a man to be able to do that. Even if his family is saying yes, 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 yes. And he's like, no, I can see for the long term future of this family, this is a solid no. And that's it. And even if he's fucking hated in the moment for a week, a month, it's important for him to again. That's being a king.
Yeah.
He knows the vision. It's a long term vision. It's not short term, and he knows that they'll have to be sacrificed. And he knows there'll be times when people don't like him.
Yeah. And that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Right. That's the part that I think you know, and that's okay. Like that's I've always tried to like get across to people like that's all right. That's sometimes how it has to be. The
Yeah,
leader is leading, and not everybody always agrees with the leader.
but there's a reason he's the leader.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
he
Exactly.
he make harder decisions and difficult decisions,
Yeah.
and that is okay.
Yeah. So, what is some stuff like we've talked a lot about the personal life? What are some of these things maybe that we can take in, into their business realm? You've got a lot of clients who, of course, strong entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
clearly. Are there any practical things as it relates to, we've talked like rites of passage, extended adolescence, things that they got to try to work on in their personal life, of course, we've been talking about, but directly in business or anything like to speak to that side of it?
Discipline. Discipline that like just high level 3 types of discipline. Number 1 is structural discipline. Structural discipline is essentially your protocols, your routines, and your habits. If you just think about a morning routine or an
Yeah.
evening routine or a routine at the gym, or a routine of how I do my day, it's a structure. It's something that you follow. Or like this week, we have a Monday morning sales meeting. We have a Friday afternoon review of the week, and once a month on a Wednesday, we have a monthly review. Like there's structure, there's cadence,
Mhm.
and structural discipline is the easiest discipline to master and to get into, but it's fucking so important. And that alone can give any business owner huge growth.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on my health. I'm going to train. Done. 7:30 till 9:30. I'm purely going to focus on business development. Done. Then it's like that repeated every day. You're going to win. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Structural discipline I've found helps people to you don't need motivation, you need discipline. Maybe that's the best way that
Yes.
it takes out the requirement to feel motivated today because I don't like if you're being led by emotion. I have these disciplines and I do these every day, and it doesn't matter how I feel. I go to the gym at 6:30 and I work out. And I like block scheduling for that reason. Every day, if you're a sales guy from 9 to 11, that's when you do your prospecting. You go on LinkedIn and you do this and you do that. You silence your phone. You don't look at any other social media or dick around with it. For these 2 hours, I'm totally in the zone on this. And you only need 2 hours because you actually did 2 hours and you got loads done.
Yeah.
And I find if they take that level of discipline to something, it becomes easier and easier.
Yes. Yeah. Two things on this. Number one is that we only have two types of days. If we minimize this to just two types of days, we've got good days and testing days. Sometimes it's a fucking good day. Wake up, feel great, feel motivated, feel energetic. The sun's out. It's a good day. It's gonna be easy today. Other days it's test. It's fucking
Yeah.
raining outside. Woke up, don't feel great, don't feel motivated. Energy's not fantastic. Fucking stumped my toe on the way out. Missus gave me a little dig as well. Like, it's a test. And it's
Yeah.
like, do you know what? Today is a testing day. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna accept it. I'm still gonna get done what I need to get done. It's just a test day. And test days make me better because it's cultivating self-restraint in not falling over.
Yeah. And it's muscle, right?
Mhm.
Uh, it's like discipline is a muscle, self restraint is a muscle. Because I think some guys can have a tremendous amount of self restraint in one area of their life and get really good at it, stop working out, and that muscle atrophies. And then you have to take small steps again to start building back up that muscle. Like today, I told you before we got started, I woke up, went to the gym today, had to do chest. I was definitely weak. I definitely have like a head cold. Um, I was dropping weight. I was doing less reps. I definitely didn't have all of it in me today. We're doing the podcast. You know, today's been a test day, but
Yeah.
the test days that when you get to the end of that day, just like anytime you've ever gone to the gym, nobody's ever not wanted to go to the gym and then felt bad about the decision. Right. So if you push through a test day, doesn't it help you to then when you get the good day, you're just like on the cloud. You're just super high.
You're building your character.
Yeah.
And I actually here is a tool that you can use is to think about your future self and like fucking even write a letter to your future self or write a letter from actually not to from your future self to who
Yeah.
you are now. So it's like because and then in the morning when you're going to go and do your prospecting and you're feeling like not doing it, it's actually my future self. For me to be that man, would I have done the prospecting right now? Fucking right. Because if I
Right.
don't, I'm not going to fulfill the boots of my future self. Because the way my future self will be, he will think differently, he will act differently, he'll behave differently, he'll have different belief systems. He'll like that guy's got an aura, right?
Right.
People know he walks in the room, and for me to become that man, I I have to do this work right now. And if I'm going to essentially betray my future self. It's self betrayal,
Right. The worst kind.
the worst kind, but
Worst
it's
kind.
self betrayal.
Yeah.
Every time that you don't do the thing you say you're going to do.
Yeah. And they're like, it's like death by a thousand cuts. Right. Because if you didn't prospect today, is it going to ruin your business? No. But it's just one cut. But what about tomorrow? And then there's just all those acts of self betrayal and they compound. And then
Yeah.
discipline, it's one of the things people can be doing. What else?
Yeah, so 3 times different, and just go for the other 2. Like, once you master structured, the next level of mastery is reactive discipline. Reactive discipline is moment to moment, whether you respond or whether you react. So let's just say that me and you are working with each other, and I come in and I've got 3 different problems, and I walk into your office and I throw these problems at you. In that moment, you can respond or react. This is your discipline. You can either go, Pete, no, I'm busy right now. Do not come in here and give me 3 different problems. That's your problem to sort out. Why don't you go away, come back with the one problem you want solving with 3 different solutions, and come back when I can help you, and we'll talk. You see that, or, oh, sorry, how can I help you, mate? Yeah, oh, yeah, I'll solve all your problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
So reactive discipline, again, it's the power of no. It's being boundaried here, and there's moment to moment how you're acting, right? The third type of discipline is expansive discipline. So I fucking love the word expansive. Expansive discipline is, again, moment to moment how you are reacting, but the choice that you make is expanding towards your bigger vision. So it's seeing you grow. So
Yeah.
every single moment we have these gaps where we can make a choice. The more choice we make towards growth, we're expanding ourselves as guys, our relationships, our wealth. And it's mastery level to be able to, every single fucking choice that we make is an expansive choice.
Mm, that's good. Do those three as the king, warrior, magician, and lover, those are from Carl Jung, right? And
It's
another
something we talk about
something.
frequently on Awaken Man. For me, it's like foundational level to get like, like you talk about like the 5 Fs. It's like, if you get like 80-20 and get foundations in all your facets of your life, you're going to do really well. Let's get the foundations right. And one of them is starting with structural discipline and just getting basic routines in place. And like you said earlier, it's like time blocking. Like if you time block your week, do 3 things: you plan your week, you prioritize the week, and then
Yeah,
you time block it, you're further ahead than most people.
right.
And you
98%
just repeat
of
that.
people are already
But more importantly, you'll be further ahead than what you were previously doing. And the prioritization is fucking key, because we can do a plan for the week and go, oh, sweet, just on a brain dump and just, I've got 37 things to do this week on my to-do list. To-do list is for amateurs. Prioritize what's actually fucking important and make it a project. That's the fucking thing that's important. And I know it's important. That is the thing that's going to change my life and move my life forward. There's my priority. And then you time block it and get it done. Then you repeat.
Yeah, I think that's where reactive discipline comes in, right? Because what happens is you have the priority. This is one of the areas I've had to work on tremendously in 2024. I was very good at structural. So then I had to start to really work stronger on the reactive slash like expansive side because, we have financial advisors all over the country. The phone call hits or the email, you see the email ding. I heard this from Tim Ferriss years ago. He would talk about how he only checked his email like twice a day. He's
Yeah.
going his email and then right at the evening. And if it came through in the middle of the day, you were not getting a response until the next time he does email, which is the evening. I had to take that form of discipline, reactive work, because problems just flare up and you deal with them throughout the day. But then what happens is you never do the priority because
Yeah.
there's always shit. There's always something that is just going to jump in the way of it and become a distraction. So there's something about when you go to that next level though, where you see growth. And that's
Yeah.
what I've experienced this year.
There's actually, it's a form of self-betrayal. Because every time you are reacting to someone else's email, you are not doing your own goal. So essentially, you are helping them achieve their goals because he decided to email you with his problem. So it's his goal for it to be solved, and it's not your goals that you'd set that week or month or whatever.
Yeah.
It's self-betrayal again.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just people please. Let me then bit. I'll just be the nice guy and I'll get back to him. And
Yeah.
then 16 emails deep, 3.5 hours later, bollocks, it's lunchtime.
Thousand.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And again, that's also going back onto being a king. A king just does not allow that to happen because his vision is so big. He has such a big vision. He's so clear on that vision. He's not being reactive day to day and just like praying for the weekend. He's always moving towards the bigger vision. Always. Even on the testing days.
Yeah. It's good. Any other stuff you want to really talk about or get into? I mean, this has been awesome. We could always do another episode, of course, in the future because this was fun. I think this is the sort of stuff though that personally and professionally, makes a gigantic difference in people's lives, which is where ultimately your actual joy and happiness comes from. It's not enough to be fulfilled at work, but when your personal comes together and you have a better relationship with kids, better relationship with wife or husband, and you're doing better at work, of course, this is how you really start to feel some level of joy and satisfaction and happiness. It's hard to do that when you're killing it at work and everything else is a mess, right? Which is why you hear the story of, unhappy billionaires, because they made the one thing work and then everything else went to shit. So, and I think that story's probably more rare than honest. Per what we were saying earlier, I just don't think often that somebody is so good at business, but they're so shit at everything else that they also end up still winning in business. Like you were saying,
Mm.
personal life is connected to the work life. Like I usually see whatever that personal thing is that they're bumping up against the ceiling on because they're still being a little boy inside. As you said, that's affecting them in their work. They're still going to end up hitting the ceiling over there. They're not just like going to go to the moon in business when they're dealing with these boyish tendencies in their personal life. There's too much carryover. I think that most of the time that's like something we're sold in movies and whatnot, but I don't think it probably actually works that way because almost all people that I know that are successful at a high level are pretty good across the board. They're pretty solid
Yeah,
in all the different areas. So
yeah.
the people that I consider truly successful are good in all those areas.
I had the success in the business. Yeah. Outside of that, I didn't have it, and I couldn't fucking handle it. It was stressing me out so much.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Oh, fuck this, I'm out."
Yeah.
And that's what happened. One of my guys today, he was like, "Oh man, I'm exiting my business, man. It's just too stressful. It's just ruining my whole life." It's worth multiples of millions. So I'm out. Fucking because I don't even care for a big payout now. I just need to get out. That's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how can people act with heroic man? I know that one of our financial advisors is Trent Hackman, who's a great dude. He's in Pennsylvania. He's the one that actually introduced you and I. He's who got us connected. But you guys clearly have a men's group. It's clearly Europe based. But if there's guys who are listening who want to plug in, how do they do that?
Yeah, I essentially have two men's groups, and they're global. Like we have guys in Canada, the US. I have guys in Australia.
Yeah,
I'm based in the UK. I'm based between Dubai and the UK. So we're all over the world, and like the men's groups, they work like this: is the awakened man is essentially the place that guys go. It's an inner circle, and they go there to get really fucking clear on what they actually want in life, personally, professionally, like what they actually want, beyond status.
mm,
And then what we do is we do two things: is that we help them reprogram their subliminal patterns that fuck them up, and we help them heal the trauma that they've got deep inside of them. And then we do that amongst a very powerful group of other guys doing the same thing, right?
that's cool.
That's Awakened Man. That's what Trent's involved with, and he's had tremendous growth. It's like very very powerful. Every guy in there gets real transformational growth. And then my second group is Heroic Man, and which is essentially it's a men's group. We have round table discussions twice a month. So we meet up twice a month virtually, and we'll have a discussion on self leadership. We'll have deep discussions on boundaries in relationships. We'll have deep discussions on masculinity and what it means to be a man in the modern world and what it means for you, not my definition or your definition. It's like what that means to you because it's different for everyone.
Yeah,
Right. So we have deep conversations on that and we round table on it and we discuss on it. And then the guys go away, they implement it into their lives. Then we do it again 2 weeks later. So
cool.
that's Heroic Man. And the way you find us is Heroic Man on Instagram or Pete Taylor on Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, we'll tag those in the show notes and all that sort of stuff on the different platforms for everybody, might be listening to this episode at or watching it. So, hey, Pete, this has been a blast. This has been the first call where we really got personal, not just purely professional talk on the show. So it was really fun to get into this. This is the stuff that, so I could show you, I have a whole wall of books. over here, some behind me. I had mentors that would drive me to go read books and then
Yeah.
squeeze me on what I got out of that book and the change that I was implementing in my life due to that, and these are the things that help boys to become men. This is what makes us better. And when we find real leadership, real alpha, which is the leader who's at the back, the wolf. Most people don't know that, but when they first study wolf packs, I don't know if you've ever heard this before.
Yeah.
They thought the alpha was at the front, and then they started to figure out that the alpha was actually the last one in the pack that just made sure that everybody was taken care of. Everybody was, it was like they were pulling up the rear, making sure that everybody was in a good place. And when men become great leaders, we become strong. I think it makes the world a better place, a safer place. I think it's just overall better. This is not just helping guys with their careers. This is helping children have better fathers and wives get better husbands out of it and everything else. This has been a blast to talk about.
Thank you, man. Absolutely.
Thanks, bud.
Cheers, Josh.
All right. Welcome to the disclosures for the Advisors Collective. The conversations on this podcast are intended to provide financial advisors with ideas, strategies, concepts, and tools that could be incorporated into their advisory practice. Advisors are ultimately responsible for ensuring implementation and compliance of anything discussed in accordance with your regulatory and compliance responsibilities and obligations. These discussions are meant purely for educational purposes. None of the information heard should be taken as financial advice or planning. The conversations and opinions that are expressed in the show are that of each host only and do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the other hosts and their affiliated companies. This podcast is not intended to give tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified professional. For my practice, securities are offered through Cape Securities Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory accounts are offered through Terra Wealth Management.